Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, no matter where you're calling from. It's great to see you in today's masterclass. You have entered the last masterclass of the series. This is our eighth masterclass to help you really take Waybook into your own hands and to get your business on the same page. In today's session, we will be running through the fundamentals of how we can create really great content. Content that actually not just informs our team, but empowers our team with everything that they need and make sure that you can keep your business on the same page for many years to come. So in today's sessions, if you've been to any of our masterclasses before, you know that we like to keep this as interactive as possible. So please feel free to say hello in the chat. And as we're going throughout today's session, I will keep my eyes both on the chat and also the Q&A. So if you've got any thoughts, any questions, anything you'd like to see, please do let me know and I will customize and tailor this as we move through. We also have the fantastic Diego here on Waybook team. If you've got any thoughts, then please do obviously put that into the chat. So in today's session, we're going to be spending quite a lot of time actually in our Waybook account because we're talking about content, of course. So the best way to look at content is to actually build out content and see what we can look at from that perspective. But really what we're looking at here is optimizing and uplifting the specific content that we have. And when I talk about content, I'm talking about the document. So gone are the days of long form PowerPoints, PDF, Word documents, rambling PDFs that we might have written until 4 a.m. in the morning in the hope that people read and understand it. Because really great teams thrive on great content, and having that clear documentation is not necessarily useful just for people to know what they're doing. It just is a growth multiplier across the whole business. So we see that teams with effective documentation can see a 30% improvement in their efficiency across the board. So that's before we even start to amend how we operate. It's just having the clear documentation. And once we have a single source of truth that's clear, that's trusted, and crucially engaging, your onboarding is smoother, your knowledge is retained more easily within your team members, and just that day-to-day execution is just incredibly consistent. And really, the quality of your documents actually does have that direct impact on the team. So we're going to do a deep dive in this today, and we're going to look at all of the different things that you can add in today to make that better. So ultimately, this can become a never-ending task of optimizing your content, but we're going to be focusing on how we can create great pieces of knowledge and documentation with ease. And Waybook really helps you build that and improve that by importing and easily structuring your knowledge, by breaking it down into clear and digestible steps, by having rich media, so having a mix of different format types, different types of content to best share the messages that you're looking at. And of course, how can we uplift this and refine our content using Waybook AI? So the good news is, if you're anything like me, you don't have to be a technical writer in order to create that amazing documentation that works within your team. So today, what we're going to cover is firstly, what does good content look like? What does it need to be engaging? Then we're going to dive into actually creating a piece of documentation together and looking at all of the different best practices, the node types, the content types that we can create. We've got a few top tips that I'd recommend that you can literally just do today within the next 15 minutes after this session to upgrade any of your existing content, and some very quick wins that you can do on a daily basis moving forward. Now, I get to speak with many people like yourself, business owners that are optimizing your knowledge within Waybook. And one recent conversation I've had with Patrick from Hale Law, they've actually really focused on having really, really clear documentation within their Waybook, and it's worked. They've said that they've got a 50% time reduction in onboarding. So that's 50% of the time it took for their legal paralegals and everyone across the business to get up to speed. They've actually seen they've had an increased retention of the knowledge, so less of those repetitive questions, although those questions are also answered within their Waybook. But crucially, what they found is that they've just not had the overwhelm. People have been able to really have clarity faster in the knowledge. Now, they reckon that's currently saving him about $60,000 a year. But what Patrick actually says, which I just warmed my heart, is he said he's actually enjoying running his business again. He's actually doing the things he enjoys more rather than being sucked and stuck in the whirlwind of the day-to-day operations. So let's dive in, and we're going to have a look at very high level, what does engaging content look like before we really dive into the account. So the key thing to think about here is to think like a trainer rather than a writer. So sometimes when we come and sit down and we're going to write a piece of documentation, we can just end up writing War and Peace. We can be less structured with it. But ultimately, if we think about what do we need to do to train our team to share that piece of knowledge, essentially, what do people need to know? What do they need to do? What do they need to know or learn in order to do that faster? So your documents should really act as a guide, avoiding that overwhelm where possible. So a few very, very high level perspectives is ultimately we want to try and use these very crystal clear headers. Within the content, we want to make sure we've got broken down short paragraphs so it's easy to digest. And within a step, which I know many of you will already be very familiar with, but we'll look into this in more detail in a moment. Within a step, we basically want to have just a single idea, a step, a piece of information, a piece of content that they need. And within that, we can break that down even further, whether that be steps within a process, whether that be bullet points, numbered lists, or dynamically presenting that. And then, of course, we can use different types of sharing that knowledge. So whether that be your summaries or your call out boxes or highlights. And really, all of this is about us prioritizing the core information they need in a way that's actionable for them, prioritized for their readability and ease to understand. Often, in this case, less can be more. So that is the headspace that we're taking into this. So let me just share my screen here. And we're just going to be building out another piece of documentation for this business, Studio 6. Spoiler alert, Studio 6 is a made-up company. We have it in our mind as an agency. So this is an agency which we're looking to kind of create out a piece of knowledge and documentation. And in today's call, we're basically going to be creating a document around the brand identity. So this is a great way for us to see all the different types that we can talk about or use to share information within Waybook. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into our edit mode. We'll have a quick look at where that might be. And, I kind of want to put this into sales and marketing, probably into the marketing handbook. Now, if you're at the point where you don't quite know where your next piece of knowledge comes from, you can actually click on this document suggest and say, create a brand identity document. And what that will do is it will actually just look at your existing Waybook structure. It will decide where is the best place to put it. And then it will also just create that document. So if we add that document in, we can see that it's created the brand identity document within company messaging, which is kind of perfect. It would either be marketing handbook or company messaging. Because it's a brand identity across the whole business, that's probably better to be in the company messaging. So let's now start to build out this document. Every document starts from scratch because we can either then just jump in and start typing and putting pieces in there. We can, of course, use the AI writer, use our templates. But for today's session, I'm going to start with an import. And I actually do have a document just here where I've basically got the very, very raw information. So this is pretty much a bullet point list Word document, which I'm just going to throw in here. Now, because it's the Word importer, if it's a PDF importer, it will structure it out a bit more. It will put it into different steps. I want to start from this position because now we can say, okay, cool. We've got the raw information in. This is good. Now, if we just publish this, yes, people can read it. They have the core piece of information. And crucially, if they search the Waybook, that knowledge will be there, or they can ask the AI ask. But really what we want to do is we want to make this just information into absorbable knowledge, which can then be used as part of our training. So the first thing that I'm going to do when I'm looking at this is that actually I'm just going to start to split this document out to be more digestible chunks. So we've got the brand purpose there, which is great. So I can now just look at a logical place to break this document down. Now, the brand purpose is almost the introduction. So when we have the kind of mission statement, I want this in a new step. So I'm going to click on this 6-dot icon. And I'm going to split that out. Everything below that will then get taken into the new step, and it will also just create your title for you. So I'm going to keep the mission, vision, statement, let's say mission, vision, and values together. I'm going to separate out the tone of voice. I'm going to perhaps go into our logo usage as a different topic. Our color palette is a slightly different topic. Typography is a slightly different topic. So really, I'm just able to go through, and this is almost just structuring this out in a way that just makes a little bit more visual sense for me as a reader. And it also then enables us to focus on the best ways to share the different pieces of information. So we'll have templates and to-dos. So now instantly, this can be something that's way more easy to go through. And the key thing here also is it pretty much means that I'm not going to be overwhelmed with a wall of text or a big piece of documentation. And crucially, if you're tracking my readership of this or my understanding, as I click through, you'll know what I have and haven't seen, what my status is. And of course, if you make a change to one step, then I only need to be updated on the tone of voice amendment rather than having to reread these reams of information. So that's excellent. So let's start with this brand document purpose. So the key thing we always say that in any step, you almost want at least two different types of content. Now that could be text and bullet points. That could be an image. That could be a video, whatever that may be. And we're going to look at all of those different types, but you want to be looking for at least two. Now, firstly, I think if we're sharing the brand identity, sometimes we can express brand as a video or a voice more than what we can do within writing. So what I'm actually going to start with is I'm going to just add a video in. So if you have a video somewhere, you can of course pull that in and embed it, which we'll do in a short while. But actually, I'm just going to use the Loom integration here, and I'm actually just going to start recording a quick video. So I'll record this. I'm now deciding, you won't see this on my part, I'm deciding what screen I'm sharing. Is it just my desktop? Is it anything else? So here I can say, welcome to the brand identity document. Here we're going to be expressing exactly how we talk about our brand. And I won't go too far into that. So you can see that actually very easily we can create that video for whatever we're sharing, and easily then I can just click to insert that, and that will now live within that document. Now, this piece of text is good, but actually I want to just make this a little bit more. So I can talk a bit more about the brand, but because this is a made-up company, I'm actually just going to use the AI action, and I'm going to expand that text out. So I want to put a bit more information, a bit more realism within that. So here, it's put a lot more information, and this basically gives us the ability to use these AI actions. So perhaps if I wanted to now summarize that down a bit, or turn that into our professional voice, then that will actually optimize the content just with a click of the button. Now you'll see as you're playing with this, you're easily able to do different AI actions from within text, but you can also do a custom prompt. So if we say turn into pirate speak, which I know none of you would ever do, particularly within your brand identity document, unless you are, of course, pirates. That's absolutely fine. You can do that from within your Waybook, and all of that will now just kind of be there ready within that account. So I'm going to leave this as it is for step one. We've got a nice welcome video. We've got some really punchy text, and we're going to move on to the next step. So now looking at the vision, mission, and values. Now, this is quite a lot to be sharing within a document, but I logically want to group these together because this is really about our brand mission, our brand vision. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is actually I'm going to separate this out a little bit. So I'm going to add these divider lines in. And even though this knowledge logically sits together, it essentially means that I can get a bit of a visual separation within one document. And instantly you can see there that looks much nicer and easier for me to follow. So what I'm going to do is I'm also then going to just bring in an image. So when we're creating new content within our Waybook, you have all of these icons up here for the different types of content you can put in. Instead of hovering over, if you want to see what they are, you can, of course, just click the plus icon, and that will enable you to insert any of these different nodes or types of content within there. Or, of course, you can just do the slash, and that will bring up the list, which I can then say, image, and I'll put that in. Now, when we're putting images in, we can connect to any of your image sources, or you can actually use Unsplash. So let's just, I spelt brand terribly wrong there. So let's just see what we can put in for there. But actually, I've got an image ready here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put that mission. And what I've done there is instead of going through the image setup, I can actually just easily drag and drop that content in. So now we've got a nice mix. We've broken this down a little bit. We've broken up the text a little bit with an image. Now, because our mission is a quote from us as a business, I'm actually going to convert this into basically a quote block. So I can either click here and hover over that block quote and put that in, or if I ever want to edit one piece of content, I can click on this six dot icon and change it to any other type. So I can change that into a bullet point really easily just by a couple of clicks. So there we go. I've added the image, I've created the dividers, put the mission into a quote, and now maybe I just want to convert this. Our core values are ordered. So I can actually turn that into a numbered list. And there I can just say, right, these are going to be our four ordered prioritized. Now, the key thing with brand values is they're also connected to business values. So I can actually add these as a title here. And as I've put that text in, we basically have the business values elsewhere within the Waybook. So instead of me repeating that information, we always want to avoid duplication and repetition within your Waybook. I can highlight that text. I can come up to this Waybook link icon, and I can now find that document to where we're talking about our brand values. And there, I'm going to collect that. And you can do that to either a subject, a document, or even an individual step within the document. And now we'll see that whenever a user will click on that, it will take them to that other step or that other piece of information elsewhere within your Waybook. So now I'm pretty happy with that, and I'm ready to move on to our next step. So now we're looking at our tone of voice. There's a few little bits that we can do to optimize this. Now, this is a pretty thin step in terms of piece of information. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a bit more of a visual cue here. So let's say, for example, I want to highlight those core competencies of our tone of voice. So again, I've highlighted that. And actually, I'm going to either change the text color or text highlight. And you'll also see all of your brand colors that you basically have within your Waybook, which you can set within your settings. And that just gives us a very easy way of creating a little bit more of a separation within our Waybook. So that kind of gives us a bit more of a pop, a bit more of a focus. We're saying we're not robots, so we can even do a strike through within that. And stuff like this kind of just makes it a little bit more engaging as people are reading. Obviously, we're not actually changing the content here. Now, if we wanted to say, okay, well, look, examples is almost amended or appended knowledge within that, I might actually then want to add that into a call out box. So again, I can click on here, I can click the plus icon, or I can do the slash, let's say call out, and that will actually just give me a call out box there, which I can then take that text and put it in there. So typically what I like to do when we do a call out box, I also normally like to add an emoji within there, because then that basically means that you can easily create this as a warning box, as an example box, or whatever that may be. So that's a bit of a cheat in terms of making your pages look a bit more engaged and divided. Again, I've not changed any of the content within there. It's still quite thin, but it's just more visually easy for me to break up, and I can understand that as a separation within it. So that's our tone of voice step. Let's now move into logo use. So we've got logo use, which is great. We've got the four key parts that we want within there. Now, what is useful is within our logo use, we actually might want to put in our logos. So again, I'm just going to drag in a couple of our logo files here for Studio 6. And again, now I can kind of separate these out. I'll make them a bit smaller. We can talk about how you use that logo within there. And the other thing that I might want to do is, as well as kind of attaching the images visually so you can see them within the document, you can also attach those files. So say, for example, I want to say downloadable logos here. I might actually then slash and go to file, and I can actually put those logos within there. So of course you can download them from Waybook, but if you actually want the file attached to it, that's really useful. Or if you wanted to say full high-res logos, and we wanted to link it out perhaps to a SharePoint drive, or if you have in a centralized Google Drive, you can essentially then either turn that into a link, or on Mac you can do Command K, on Windows you can do Control K, and actually that will then mean that we can just say, okay, let's put a link to the drive or the Dropbox, whatever that may be. So here we've got a bit more about the information, how we use the logos, some examples of the logos themselves, a click to some additional ones. So again, as I'm moving through this, we're really talking about the different types of nodes that we can put in and also the best practice within it. And I'm pretty happy with that. Yes, I can talk more about the logo usage, but again, I'm not looking to overwhelm people within this. Being in a company messaging rather than in the marketing handbook, I'm kind of just making sure everybody knows how to use the logos from a high level perspective. So now let's move into the color palette. So if we look at the color palette, we can basically say, well, this is pretty good, but it would be nice again to see the actual colors. So again, I'm just going to pull in an image. That image will basically give all of the information we need. So we've got all of those hex codes within there. We've got the colors. They can actually see what they look like. Now, of course, I probably want to say we use 6 main colors. Primary colors are for like headlines within our document. Secondary colors are for accents, and we can basically just put that text within there. Now, again, all of this information, this is a bit of a repeat. So if you find that you have documents that have repeated information, so perhaps the image is enough, but we still want them to be able to copy and paste these different icons, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that out, and I'm actually going to add in a collapsible node. So a collapsible node basically enables you to put a lot more context into your Waybook step. So let's say we've got logo hex codes. And if I break that down there, I'm going to paste that content back in. And essentially what this does is it means that when the document first loads, it's much more digestible. But if I need more, I can kind of concertina that out. Now, this is particularly useful if you have perhaps an embedded PDF or a video that you would like the transcripts or notes around that, or even additional keywords, other forms of reference that you want available for the search. Anything that you put in a collapsible box will, of course, bring people back to that step. So that's really useful. And now, again, I might want to make that a little bit more interesting. And I'll head into here and say, right, well, I want to change this text color. And I will just add in that hex code, and that will create that there. Now, if you wanted to have your core colors, so let's say we wanted this soft blue available within our brand colors, as I mentioned before, if we go into the settings and we go into branding, you can actually add these different brand colors to really suit what you wanted. So, okay, that's that core color there. We might want to come back and use this regularly. So actually that will be available now if I go into that brand color view there. So I'm going to leave that. I'm pretty happy with that. It's very stripped back. It's really obvious what it's doing. But again, if we want people to know the brand colors and know how to use them and have quick access to those hex codes, that literally does the job. Now, moving on to our typography, we've got lots of content within here, which is looking good. So again, I might actually just want to kind of get a little bit more of a visual break within that. Sometimes we might actually want to put to again concertina some of this, but this is looking pretty good. Now, we've already imported, because this came from Word, a table here, but remember within Waybook, it's really nice to be able to use tables to structure things in different ways, or obviously show the comparisons like this. But all I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to create the logo files. So I'll just put font files. I'll just put font files in there. And again, as a file attachment, I can just put this in. Actually don't have a font file here, so I'm just going to drag in another document. And essentially, you'll just start to see how it's very easy to start to build that up. So I'm going to leave that one as it is. This one isn't the best, if I'm honest. It's got a bit more structure from a bullet point list. The table really helps break up that knowledge. So perhaps actually I would want to just put in maybe a divider, and then for this hierarchy, maybe I'll turn this into a process, so it kind of feels a little bit more structured because it's best practice. So let's turn that into something which is a step by step, so people can move through that and make sure they've got everything. So let's now finally, we're getting to the end of all the different bits that we can do there. Let's look at the image guidelines. As we come to the image guidelines again, talking about this is an easier way for us to say, okay, well, let's actually put that image in so we can show an example of those image guidelines. And again, we might want to expand out some of that text if we wanted. But here just is for the core guidelines of the image. We don't really need to say much more than that. This is easy to understand. It's digestible. It's searchable. It goes within the knowledge within our AI ask, and means that we can really easily get up to speed. Now, finally, or penultimately, we come into the templates list. Again, you can link out to specific templates. But say, for example, we've got our email signature template. Now, we can, of course, just add in a code snippet. So let me say email. Actually, I'm going to put in a collapsible node. Say email signature code. And if I expand that out, I can now decide that I want to put in a code snippet. So I'm going to click that there. And then here you can basically just pull any sort of code from any different editor, and that lives in there. So instantly, anybody who's starting perhaps on their onboarding, I can actually have the code for their email ready to go so they can set that up easily without asking anyone as part of their onboarding. And then finally, we've got those do's and don'ts. So in order to do the do's and don'ts, I'm actually going to make this pretty easy. But because it's quite, bullet points are fantastic. Almost everything I write is bullet points. But let's say, for example, we want to now turn that into a checkbox. And if we make that a checkbox, what it means is anybody who's going through the document, they can be sure that they're checking this off. They're creating that content as they go through there. So again, I'm going to click on the 6-dot icon, go to change, create as a checkbox, and then that basically just means that I've got all of that content ready to go. Now, the last thing we might want to do is we might want to add in, some external resources, some thoughts or understanding of branding. And that might not be a video that we have. So I'm going to add in a video. And very similar to how we can add in any image and, of course, PDFs or things like that. I'm going to put in a video and literally just paste in any link from any video service, Vimeo, Wistia, YouTube, Loom, Zoom, you name it, you can put that in. And pretty easily, I know that's taken a few minutes, but we've basically built out an entirely structured, very well separated, dynamic brand identity document for our team members. Now, that's pretty useful. And if you publish that, it basically means that everyone's now going to be on the same page. Everyone's going to have the content that they need. But we can take that one step further. And one step further means that we can now reinforce all of that learning with different tests. So turning that information into knowledge, we've done very easily, but really to confirm that we know that our team members understand it, and also to help build their confidence and strengthen that learning, we can add tests. So a lot of people will end up just having comprehension tests at the end of a document. And the other thing is you can then use those results to identify those knowledge gaps. And we can do it easily because creating tests can take a very long time. But let's do it in just a split second within our Waybook. So I'm going to go to the bottom document here. Now, I've just realized I didn't create a new step. So if we wanted to add a new step within there, we can obviously click add new step and it will create a new piece of content for us. But if you want a different type of step rather than just an a text step, we can click on this up arrow. And here we can start with a blank document, a test step, a confirmation, but we can also then start pulling from templates to add in AI writer, or if we have another import document. So I'm going to add in a new test. And of course I can create that manually. So I can jump in here, I can add different questions, do different things. But actually what I am going to do is I'm going to create that with AI. So on any document, on any piece of knowledge, when you create with AI, what it will do is it will read the document, prioritize the most important things to test your team on, and then actually create you multiple choice questions. The amount of questions will depend on how much content is within that document. So we can see here we've got 6 questions about the commitment of the studio, what our mission statement is, what tone, and things within here really will just become very easy multiple choice questions. Now, you can obviously make these more complicated if you'd like. One thing that you can do here is we can move these around. Usually the AI will mix up the different answers, so you don't have to worry about everything being the same answer. And you can also actually then add images into those tests as well. So if we're saying what's the best logo to use in this scenario, we can show the scenario, and then we can actually even import the different logos for them to actually choose or not choose those. So that brings the information into knowledge, into training material. If you have a piece of knowledge or documentation that requires an additional layer of tracking or compliance, you can actually then add in a knowledge confirmation step. And a knowledge confirmation step is basically the ability to say, right, I actually confirm, commit, agree, whatever you need. And for them to, we can decide what they're confirming to, what the action is. So are they submitting? Are they accepting? Are they confirming? And if you want, you can actually require a signature on that as well. So that's basically them typing their name, and they have to write their real name in order for it to be approved. So it really gives you that additional layer of tracking and compliance. So that brings us to a really perfect point in order for me to now publish this document. And if I publish this document, because it's already within the company messaging subject, I don't need to worry about should other people have access to it or not, because it's already accessible by 5 groups. One of those groups with 3 members are required to complete that. Obviously, all of that is toggleable within your members access area, which we have another masterclass on, but essentially it's something you set up once and it scales with your business. So if I publish this document and I go back into the read mode, we will now see what a beautiful piece of document we've made together. So, okay, we can watch a video, we can move through, we can mark as complete. Here we've got that broken down. We've got these internal links. As you can see, I can jump in and out of the different pieces there. And then also let's go a little bit further into that document. So we've got the logo use. Now, what you will notice here is that these are reference documents for me. And that basically means that the permissions on this account means that I need to have access to it. I need to see it, but I'm not required to complete that. So I'm just going to show you how that changes quickly, and then we'll see it on the other side. So if I go into the groups, and let's look at the admin group, which I am a part of. I'm actually then going to add within that the company messaging. I'm going to say that I now require that completion. So if I head back to the dashboard, I'll give this a nice little refresh. Now what you'll see is actually I am required to complete that. So I can move through here, I can mark as complete. And as I mark that as complete, it's tracking my progress here, it's seeing where I am. And of course, these things now, they're very easy. For something like the brand identity document, because we've made them so easy and condensed, sometimes I don't need to memorize the hex code, but actually it's certainly good for me to know that there are hex codes and what the graphics are. So then when I come back and search for that, it's already there, it already exists. So as I complete through this document, I just want to get into that test step. So again, we've got the email signature. And you'll notice that we've turned that big wordy document of bullet points into a training course, which also is a nicer document for me to come back to when I need to keep myself up to speed. So, okay, I'm going to answer some of these questions. I'm going to move through, but I don't actually know the answer, as you can imagine. But you'll see here for the knowledge confirmation, I can say, yeah, that's great, and I'm Mike Bander. Again, you didn't need to turn on the requirement to complete that. And now I'm fully up to speed. I'm on the same page, and we all know where we are. So that is some of the fundamentals of creating really engaging visual content. Now, just to kind of recap on that, a key thing is to make it as visual as possible to really make it stick. So rich content helps your messages not just land faster, but actually stay longer in people's brains. So visuals can increase that retention by 65% alone. So even if you don't have lots of imagery available to you, just use the Unsplash image creator within Waybook, and you can kind of pull from that stock image. But also remember to embed those recordings, those images. You can use GIFs and videos. Use those annotated screenshots. So many of you will know, and I will just jump back into this. If I'm creating a document, but actually I want to show a how-to on a piece of information, you can actually then create that with Waybook Shots. So this is another very easy way of creating very rich and dynamic information. So if I just wanted to share with you how to, let's say, change the admin permissions, I'll start that recording. I'll say, well, you need to go into the organization, you need to go into groups, you need to go into admin, we need to scroll, and we want to click on here and perhaps toggle this on. And essentially, as I'm doing that, you'll see it screenshotting what I'm doing, highlighting where I'm clicking, deciding what that process is. And once I've done that once, that is me then centralizing that information. So This now exists as a Waybook shop, which of course I can then just very easily import that directly into my Waybook. Now I obviously have too many Waybooks, but I can import that into there. I can decide where that goes. So let's also put that into the company messaging to keep it all together. And again, that's another starting point for the document in the same way that we had that import at the beginning of the session. So now we can either keep all of these in one step and edit a bit, or we can break those down as we go. So that is the other way of creating really dynamic information very, very easily, and it's super high power for your team. But the other thing that we really need to remember is to combine those visuals with text to really support different learning styles. We very much suggest that you avoid duplication within your document, but repetition within a step is okay. So actually, if you had a piece of knowledge as a video, a summary in text, and perhaps an image with the different pieces, it actually just helps kind of get knowledge in across different learning styles within the business. And even if you think, look, Mike, I don't have time to create images and videos and things like that, just use an emoji or just use a stock image, as I said, to really break that up. Now, the key thing to kind of just bring to your attention is it's very easy to upgrade what you already have with a couple of clicks of buttons. So you've seen me do it there with those AI actions. So you can now use that to build on what you already have. So there's loads of options here. Make your text longer, concise things down, turn things into descriptions, into guided repetitive processes. And you can match the tone to your professional communication. But the other thing that you can do is you can also just ask Waybook to do anything. So if I head back into this document, remember at the top there, I turn this into pirate speak, which I can assure you isn't something that we have specifically put within Waybook, but it's something that you can achieve because of the flexibility and the ease of that editing tool within your Waybook account. So now let's move directly into the quick wins. If anyone does have any thoughts or questions, please do let me know. I'm keeping my eye on both the chat and also the Q&A. But if you're sitting there and you're thinking, yeah, I like the look of the end case, but I've got a lot of documents that are just text and bullet points, remember to split those steps down. We recommend that each step is about half a page of A4, between half a page to a page of letter paper. And that really is to make it digestible for your team members, but better for your tracking and easier when you update that knowledge as well. Make sure you have those visuals for learning support, have that high level information in your call out boxes. So think about it as a PS or an addition or a warning or examples, whatever that may be. And then play with how you want to share your knowledge. I really like these kind of collapsible nodes and perhaps having embeds or files within those nodes. Don't forget to add those tests and assessments. If you are thinking about whether or not people are understanding your knowledge within it, clicking that one button and making it a test really brings the attention to whether or not people understand your content. Because if you're noticing that people aren't able to pass your test, they then are more likely to give feedback on the document or ask you questions. And then that kickstarts this feedback loop of you saying, oh, I do need to clarify this a bit, or I do need to share this information in a different way. And don't just rely on asking people, waiting for people to fail those tests. Ask people. I always recommend that once you've created a document, push it for review, get somebody else to look at it. And as soon as you've published it, just ask someone to see if that makes sense or how does that work? Because again, we do this once and it then lives with us forever. So if you want to look at a document and see, does it make sense? The checklist is each step about half a page to a page of letter paper? Do you have at least 2 different content types within each of your steps? Are you using those internal links, or are you actually duplicating documents? Remember, we want to avoid duplication at all costs. And do you have those tests to confirm the recall? And essentially review this in an iterative way. Some people want to have the perfect Waybook before they roll it out to the team. But the truth is you need to roll it out to the team in order to make it the perfect Waybook, because we want to see this living and breathing in the business for us to close those knowledge gaps and move forward. So, ladies and gentlemen, that does bring us to the end of today's session. We've covered all of the different, or the vast majority of the different ways that we can kind of really engage and create different content within Waybook. Again, if you've got any thoughts or questions, now is the time. You're a very quiet group of people on the webinar, which is unusual. But I can only assume it's Friday, so maybe you've asked all of your questions for the week. But if you've got any other thoughts or questions, then please do let us know. I can see just one coming in now. Um, and Rachel, so you've got the question: is there any way to show how to do a flow chart or to start it? Yeah, that's a great question. So regarding flowcharts specifically, there's not a block by block building flowchart within Waybook. But what we do see is we see a lot of people utilizing giving the overarching understanding of something by sharing a flowchart, and then actually you make the content dynamic within it. So let's say, for example, we're looking at a procedure on how to do your expenses. And we want to show that process in a flowchart. Now, you can, of course, put the image in, but if you are using any other flowchart building tools, so maybe you're using Visio or Lucid Charts, anything like that. If I head back into the edit mode here, one other type of content I can add in is this web embed. So if I click web embed, you can actually then embed that live flowchart from wherever else you have it, wherever you've got your existing flowcharts. So that's one thing if you want to show that visual overview and you've got it already. Now, if you're looking for the clicking nature and the kind of dynamic nature of flowcharts, what you can do is you actually use internal links to give people that depth. So let's say, for example, mission statement, vision statement, whatever else, or we say let's have tone of voice. Now, if we want to say, is the customer angry, or let's say the customer is angry, the customer is happy. And then what you can essentially say is, right, we're doing a basic call script. We've got the high level call script. We wanted people to know where it is. And actually we can then say, right, well, I'm going to do an internal link to another step within that document or perhaps elsewhere. And actually what it does is it turns your documents into a really engaged set of documents. So you can click through at the bottom of the different documents to take you to the next step. And of course, you can then take that destination step back to another one, depending on where you want. So that's a great question there, Rachel. I hope that answers it. And please do let me know if it doesn't. So just heading back to this, if anybody does have any other questions, I will just stay on the call for a moment afterwards. But to do a very quick recap there. Okay, I've got two more questions in. Okay, so Rachel said thank you. That's great. That's not a question. You're welcome, Rachel. Craig, we've got what's the best way to get access to a feature summary? Yeah, I did go through a lot, Craig. You're absolutely right. So firstly, you'll all get a replay of this, so you can kind of see all of the different parts. We also actually have an implementation guide, Craig. So if that's useful for you, we'll get that over to you, because that's basically the step-by-step things that we recommend of using Waybook. And what we've done within this masterclass series, which we'll also make available after this in its entirety, is we've basically used all of the core features that you might want to use within that masterclass. So we have how you create groups, how you manage reports, how you do permissions, how you create your structure, and all of that goes through. So we'll get you the implementation guide. We'll give you access to the masterclass series when it's all kind of put together and packaged back out. But the other thing is we run a monthly session, Craig, which is our feature updates. So we're constantly putting things out within Waybook. And if you subscribe to that, and if we could get a link over to Craig and the rest of the team on chat, would be excellent. You can just jump into those webinars or register it, and you'll get a recording, and that literally just keeps you up to date with everything else that's coming out. The final thing I will just say on that, if there's something that you think you would like, and you're pretty sure Waybook should do it or could do it, if you head into AI Ask, and instead of asking your documents, you can ask the Waybook Help Center. We can say, how can I export a document as a PDF? And essentially any question that you might have, because you're not asking our help center, it will just answer it for you. Okay, so if you're in edit mode, you click this icon and you get the export, and that will actually then take you into our help center, and that will give you the step-by-step guide of using that particular thing. Once you're in here, or you can actually just go to the help center within Waybook, under understanding Waybook, we basically have feature deep dives into almost everything here. So actually we look at features, you've got all of these different features. And actually you can just jump into that and it will show you how to use that specific thing. Now, I say that because that's something that you can do instantly. You can get your answer immediately, but we always love to speak with you guys. So actually, if there's any thoughts or questions, or you want a specific run through on your particular challenge that you have within Waybook, just book a call with your account manager, and they're always more than happy to kind of understand more about your business and give you advice and guidance in terms of how you can get the most out of your Waybook. So remember, a quick recap. We've had a quick look at what engaging content looks like. We've looked at how we can create rich media and various different formatting to make it clear and easy to understand. A couple of tips, particularly using the AI and the split step in terms of how to upgrade your content, and some quick wins that you can do today. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for everything, for joining today and all of your great questions that we've had so far. If you're ready to do this right now, for the next 15 minutes, I'd recommend just to choose one or two of your key processes or pieces of information or core procedures or policies, and use that AI action to transform the text, expand it, shrink it, reword it, whatever you want. Add a couple of visuals, put some dividers in, and create a test step. And really, if you just start to do a couple of these, every day, every few days, you'll realize that this iterative approach to your knowledge management just really, really gains a lot more momentum. So thank you so much for joining me. I wish you all the very best of luck over the coming weeks and months. If you have any thoughts, any questions, you need any support, please do reach out to us to let you know. And I'm really excited to see how you continue to build your business with Waybook so we can all enjoy some smooth scaling. Thank you very much. Have a lovely one, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye now.